3 rotations, and this young man from Los Angeles is having himself quite an afternoon, and we'll be seeing his action live a little later on our coverage. Christy Phillips, meanwhile, just moments ago, had a brilliant display on the uneven bars. Bart Connor, she looked very sharp.
She did look very sharp, and this was a very critical routine for her because right there she makes the reverse hecht, her big release move. You know, this is not her strongest event, and if she's going to stay in close competition with Phoebe Mills and Olga Strajeva from the Soviet Union, she had to get through this event, and she did so beautifully. Nice rhythm.
I'm here.
Perfect work to the handstand there.
Insert into the post baskets the way it looks now. What's give me the
great pike double back.
Christy Phillips. See her live, the defending champion in this event, and Phoebe Mills, her American teammate, right with her, and the Soviet Olga Strajeva. We'll be back with live coverage on CBS Sports Sunday. Right now, let's return you to Gym Nance in New York.
All right, the spoils.
Like Nadia Comaneci before her, Mary Lou Retton was an Olympic and American Cup champion under Coach Bella Caroli. Then a year ago, 13-year-old Christy Phillips took on the world in the American Cup and came away with another championship for Coach Caroli. And this year, Phoebe Mills, yet another Caroli protege, joins Phillips in the 1987 McDonald's American Cup. On CBS Sports Sunday coverage of the 1987 American Cup Gymnastics Championships from George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. Hello, everybody. I'm Tim Ryan with Olympic gold medalist and 3-time winner of an American Cup championship himself, Bart Connor, and we'll be joined by our own Ann Butler as the program moves along. Well, the program has been moving along with great excitement today, Bart. Yesterday, of course, there were 42 gymnasts in all qualifying to make it into the final 16, 8 men, 8 women here today. Now, the American team has, of course, Christy Phillips defending her American Cup Women's Championship. The men's team was somewhat hurt by the injury to Tim Daggett.
Yeah, Tim did hurt his neck a week ago, but he seems to be doing well in Los Angeles, recuperating right now. But we do have a very strong competition going on here. Absolutely. I mean, the Soviets have sent some terrific gymnasts, and generally what they do is send some people who are very close to breaking onto the international scene, and they have 2 outstanding performers here today. Vladimir Gogoladze for the men, and for the girls, Olga Strajeva.
Well, in the women's competition, they will compete in 4 events. The vault, uneven bars, balance beam, where we are now, on the floor exercise. And the current standings, as we are in that 3rd rotation for the women, Olga Strajeva, a relatively unknown Soviet, but looking very good in first place. Phoebe Mills, Christy Phillips right behind her, and Augustina Badja from Romania. Now, Olga Strajeva still to come in the balance beam event, awaiting that, and earlier in her uneven bars performance just a few minutes ago, she was spectacular, Bart.
She is probably one of the best bar workers in the world. She has a tremendous line of extension. Notice here a perfect line in the handstand, free hip. Now watch the free-flowing swing. Look at that giant swing, topped off with perfect form, and she kicks out of this double back and nails the landing. She's tough there, scored 9.9.
14-year-old Olga Strajeva, 9.9 on the uneven bars, and so she is in first place in the women's at this point. Now, in the men's exercises, they have 6 different events. They've currently gone through the first 4. They're now competing on the parallel bars, and at this point, the leader is Brian Ginsberg of the United States, with Scott Johnson right behind him, and the Soviet, who is very tough, not out of it yet, Vladimir Gogoladze, who was very impressive yesterday. He led the preliminary qualifying round. And so we've got live action ahead. And coming up, it'll be Gogoladze and Olga Strajeva when we return with the American Cup.
CBS Sports Sunday is sponsored by Michelob. So exceptionally smooth, the night belongs to Michelob. McDonald's. It's a good time for the great taste of McDonald's. And by Kellogg's Bran Flakes, the great tasting way to help keep yourself fit on the inside.
Fairfax, Virginia, Tim Ryan and Bart Connor with Ann Butler at the 1987 American Cup Gymnastics Championships. And in the balance beam competition, we'll be watching this young lady shortly. They're having their warm-ups right now. Olga Strajeva. She is 14 years of age. She's from the Ukraine, Zaporizhia, in the Ukraine. And yesterday on this event, she had a 9.9 And so we expect her to be equally as tough today. Now, Ann Butler spoke with American coach Bella Caroli to get his impressions of Olga.
Bella, of course, you've been preoccupied with Christy and Phoebe over the last couple of days, but how do you assess the Russian competitor's skill? She scored a 9-9 on the balance beam just yesterday.
Well, Lasha good yesterday did a good routine with pretty solid, even though she took out a few skills just to make more secure and more solid. But otherwise, the performance was clean with no major mistake in it. She's a pretty strong competitor. She's one of the better ones right now in her country. And hopefully going to be one of the, actually that's the Russians' hope, that's going to be one of the Olympic contenders.
Well, there's a look at Olga, and Bart Conner, I think Bella Caroli kind of let the cat out of the bag. When you talk to the Soviets, they're always a little vague about where these youngsters stand that they bring over here and introduce for the first time, where they stand in their own national picture. Olga herself placed herself about number 5, she said, but we learned from another member of the Soviet delegation that she's thought of as highly as number 3 behind Shushanova and Omielanchik, who are recognized around the world as probably their top 2 women.
And what's interesting about that fact is on any given day, any one of maybe 10 girls could be the Soviet national champions. They're that strong, they're that deep.
Well, the depth on that Soviet gymnastic team is really something indeed, but this young lady came in here yesterday showing tremendous maturity at age 14, a lot of confidence. She won the qualifying round yesterday with 39.3 points out of a possible 40. Came first in the vault, the bars, and the beam. And on the beam, which she is about to compete in here, she had a 9-9. And indeed, there's her score, 9.9 from the beam yesterday. And she finished 7th in the floor exercise, and really, Bart, only because she stepped out on a very difficult trick in her tumbling run.
She was actually trying some very difficult elements, as she will be doing here on the balance beam. One thing that is so terrific about the Soviet athletes is they never hold back. Watch this mount. Back handspring, back handspring. Oh, she was a little bit off on that second back handspring yesterday. At that point, she went right into a laid-out backflip. Now watch this trick. There's a one-arm handstand. Back to a two-handstand. Isn't that great? That's called a Healy twirl down to the beam. I've never seen that attempted before on women's balance beam. I think one thing that's terrific about her style is she's very confident, she's very poised, she stands tall, she has terrific extension. There's almost a cockiness about it. There's almost a arrogance to her performance that I think is really infectious.
Do you know what her name translates to in English? Strajeva, the secure one. Exactly what you just described.
I think that's very appropriate. Notice here she does very clean, full turn. Nice fluid movements. So it's important that she doesn't stop too long right here before her tumbling skills. Back handspring layout. Beautiful split leaps. Here she is setting up for her double back dismount, which she did effortlessly yesterday. Tuck double back. Okay, one hop on the landing, but a very nice exercise. A little trouble at the beginning, but I'm sure it'll have to score well because she still had all the necessary difficulty in that exercise.
Olga Strajeva, who led the qualifying yesterday, had a 9-9 on this beam exercise yesterday, and the leader at this point today. She may be number 3 or number 5 in the Soviet Union, but right now she's number 1 at the American Cup. But there is still another full rotation to go, and still Phoebe Mills to come on the beam.
On her mount, she does a round off onto the board. Back handspring, and she's supposed to go into a layout back there, but you can notice she was a little off balance, so she watered back there to stay on the beam.
Well, we'll be back with her score here, which could be a critical one for the current leader, Olga Strajeva, with those little problems. We'll be right back. Looking at Strajeva live in Fairfax, Virginia, at George Mason University. She is the leader in the women's competition. She had a 9.75 on the beam that you just saw. And now we're going to go over to the men's competition. And our first look at the Russian man representative here today. And when we say Russian, that's not strictly speaking correct. He is a Georgian from the Soviet Union. And his name is Vladimir Gogoladze. And he looked very impressive yesterday, Bart.
He did, Tim. And one thing that I like about Gogoladze's style is He's a very complete gymnast on all the pieces of equipment. He is excellent. It's not like he has one or two hot spots and one or two weak spots. He's very consistent across the board, and that's one of the reasons why he's such a strong competitor in this event here.
20 years of age from Tbilisi in the Georgian Republic, and yesterday on the parallel bars he was second with a score of 9.75, but he won the qualifying overall with 58.1.
And he's off to a terrific start here. He's doing some unique elements. Heely twirl with his legs apart in straddle position. Very nice extension in the handstands. Notice he's right on top of the handstand. Perfect position, excellent toe point. Those are the things that you need to do to get the big score. Pike double back, and a great landing. That is going to be tough to beat.
Gogoladze needs a perfect 10 there to take the lead, but of course he's got more action ahead. Yet another exercise to go. And let's go back and watch his dismount, which was a dandy.
One of the things that makes this so difficult is lots of gymnasts are doing the double back dismount, but not very many of them do it like this. He does a back toss to a perfectly straight handstand, and now this double back somersault is done in a piked position. Very difficult to land, but obviously not difficult for him.
Vladimir Gogoladze, 20 years of age, working on an entirely new set of routines that he's getting ready for the European Championships in May. As usual, they were a little closed-mouthed, the Soviet delegation, about whether or not he would show some of those new routines here. But this is considered by the Soviets a real important springboard to the remaining competitions this year. And there is his score on the parallel bars, 9.75, so he continues to trail Brian Ginsberg, the American, in the men's standings.
And actually, Tim, I thought he should have scored a little higher. His exercise was clean. He had all the necessary difficulty, and I didn't see any room for mistakes. I think he should have scored at least a 9.8, maybe a 9.9.
Currently third in the men's standings. Gogoladze was second in the 1986 all-around at the Spartakiad, his best finish in 1986. College student at the University of Tbilisi in the Georgian Republic of the Soviet Union. Bella Karoli, the Romanian, now coaching those two young ladies. On the left, you have Phoebe Mills. On the right, Christy Phillips, the defending American Cup champion, both training in Houston at Bella Karoli's gym down there, where he is churning out gymnastic stars. And he has had great success here because Nadia Comaneci, a former winner here at the American Cup, and then, of course, Mary Lou Retton, now these two young ladies. So here's how it stands. Currently in rotation 3, Olga Strazheva of the Soviet Union with a narrow lead over the defending champion Phillips. Phoebe Mills in good position, and the outstanding-looking young Romanian, Augustina Badja, trying to carry on the great tradition of gymnastics in Romania.
Who's going, the boys or the girls up?
And Bella Karoli, you can hear him checking.
Who goes, the boys or the girls?
Boy goes, and then the
Good.
Bench there to see how things stand and what the order will be in the final rotation, which will be on the floor exercise for the women. I find it hard to say women when the oldest competitor here, Bart Connor, is 15 years of age in this competition of the final 8.
And
They're
small.
really girls.
They range from about 4 feet tall to about 4.5 feet tall.
We have time.
Bella Karoli, what an impact he's had. He's kind of the Ion Tiriac of gymnastics. And we'll find out more about the success he's had with Christy Phillips and Phoebe Mills with our Ann Butler.
They arrive each morning at 7 at a gym just north of Houston. Little girls with big dreams. These are the charges of Bella Karoli. And among them is perhaps our country's finest female gymnast, Christy Phillips, and her greatest rival, Phoebe Mills.
Both of them high determined, hard-working young athletes. No question about that. Both of them, they set high goals, and they're going for that.
Bella's Mary Lou set the mark for Karoli's kids, and it was no less than perfect. And while Christy Phillips has been deemed heir apparent largely on her surprising first-place finish in last year's American Cup, she couldn't have done it without a little help from her friend.
I couldn't have done it last year without Phoebe because we just push each other so much in the gym.
She's perfectly right. Her everyday competition with Phoebe is the more important than the final competition where you go out and compete against somebody else.
I know what she's doing all the time, and she pushes me very much so because she's the best gymnast, and so I know that since I've got the best gymnast, I have to work my hardest all the time.
While last year's American Cup established Christy Phillips as Bella's best, the competition in the gym grew, and when last summer's Olympic festival was over, Christy had emerged with the gold, but not